Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Down. As you can see, we're chilling in my car, which means it is live reaction time, but the old Seaman's throwing a curveball today. We're not talking movies. We're not talking trailers. We're talking video games? Oh, yes, we are talking video games. And one video game in particular, and if you're paying attention to your screen, you might be able to figure out where I'm going. Maybe. But did I just finish a game that I was sobbing at the end of the game. I've never cried in a video game in my life. This game made me sob like a baby. And besides that, I mean, that in and of itself is probably enough reason to make a video. But this game was just so much fun and so spectacular to play that I was like, I have to talk about it because it is cinematic. It is video game quality that I just live for. It is so good. So let's not waste any time, man. You still haven't figured it out yet? Well, why don't you pull up a chair? Take a seat. I'm talking about this guy, Spider-Man, the PS4 video game. Holy cow, man. Insomniac, Sony, Marvel. What a collaboration, dude. This game is amazing. Now, I've always been a humongous fan of the Spider-Man games. Of all of the superhero video games, I think the Spider-Man games have always been the best. Followed very closely by the Batman games that PS4 or the PlayStation started making. I guess not PlayStation, because they're on Xbox too. I'm a PlayStation guy, so I get skewed. But even the Arkham games that they made, those are really, really good. They're on that same level as Spider-Man. Other stuff is all kind of flopped for me, but the Spider-Man stuff has always been spectacular, whether it's attaching itself to a movie, whether it's just being a Spider-Man game that's on its own. Playing Spider-Man is maybe the best of all of the superheroes to play, because there's a funness to him that fits so well in a video game, and that is so true here. I told my one buddy right after I popped it in my PS4, I was like, dude, this game, I just swing around New York City all day long. The swinging through the city is amazing. One, the structure of the city, fantastic. It looks amazing. It feels so much like New York. I mean, most of the video games always do that. But I remember the first open world New York map was really, really good. This is better. This is easily some of the best New York mapping I've ever seen. It just feels so accurate. Then on top of that, like the fact that in order to swing anywhere, you have to have something to attach a web to. There's always an anchor point, and it's an anchor point that makes sense. It's never just out in the air, and I love that. It makes traversing Central Park really difficult, traversing things around by the water really difficult. You have to get creative to kind of maneuver around. But it's not just the swinging, man, and the swinging looks great. I mean, the movements and everything that he does, going from one hand to the other hand to two hands, all of that looks really, really good. But I just love the general movement, the way you're able to sling yourself with your webs or shoot in between like fire escapes on buildings or run on buildings or jump off a building and want to turn and use your web to spin around. It's flawless. If you want to get to somewhere in the city and you know how to do everything, there are so many interesting and fun ways to zip Spidey through the city. You could do that all day long. But then do yourself a favor, because the first day was all small missions, man. It was just finding little pockets of bad guys to fight real quick, get used to the gameplay and how the controls work and all that. But once you figure that stuff out, get into the main story, because the cinematic experience in this video game is phenomenal. Yes, the graphics are amazing. Yes, the gameplay is amazing. The way you can swing through New York City, the way you can fight. Once you figure out how to utilize all the tools and weapons you have at your disposal as Spider-Man, the fighting in this game is amazing. It literally, everything in this game feels like what you could think of in your head when you were reading the comics. It's like that good. And the fighting combos and different ways you can utilize, the world and use, your surroundings and use enemies to fight people. It's so cool. And same with like the stealth missions. Stealth missions always a thing in Spider-Man games where you usually have to web somebody up and like string them up from, hanging from the ceiling. This is the best version of that. Saw that in the very first trailer they released. When you do that this time, there's like 3, 4, 5 different variations depending on where you're standing in relation to the bad guy. And the way he just spins them up and webs them looks so cool, feels so accurate. It's amazing. But the cinematic portion of this game is really where it wins, man, because this story is so gripping it's so comic accurate without being comic accurate all the time, right? It takes some deviations from the comics and stories that we know to develop its own story. Insomniac develops not only its own story, but its own Spider-Man universe. And there are tweaks to that, right? If you're going to create something new, there's going to be some tweaks. And I think that's the point. This isn't supposed to feel like the Amazing Spider-Man or the Ultimate Spider-Man, like specific Spider-Man. This is a version of that, right? Which is what the comics do. And it works. So there's small variations, man. Things like Mary Jane works at the Daily Bugle. Things like that. Kind of the small tweaks that don't hinder it and make it still feel, and it still feels comic book accurate and Spider-Man accurate. And I thought that was really, really impressive. I thought it builds and the way in which it builds, the build in this game is just so great. And it has multiple builds. Without giving away major spoilers, I think most of this is known. But I mean, the build to the Sinister Six in this game is excellent. If you're going to build to a Sinister Six in the cinematic universe, Kevin Feige, sit down and play the PS4 Spider-Man game. I thought they came up with a really creative way to incorporate that many villains in a way that worked. Now, if I have one knock, it might be the boss battles. Some of them are fun, some of them are difficult, but pretty much all of them, once you figure out the pattern, pretty easy to navigate. Now, I don't have the difficulty jacked all the way up. I'm doing that next. I just wanted to experience and enjoy the game. Boy, did I. So yeah, the boss fights might be a little weak sometimes. But the story and the building and the story of all of those characters is just absolutely phenomenal. I really, really liked it. And the overall arc that gets you to the main end of the movie, it utilizes the Sinister Six as a really nice launch point to get us to the last act of the story. And it's so good. I was sobbing tears, man, crying hard. And we know I cry lots in the movies, TV shows. I've never once cried during a video game. That's how gripping the story is. That's how attached to the story you feel. Because you literally become Spider-Man in this game, and you feel like a superhero the entire time you're playing this. Anytime you're going, I mean, I was just like, I want to be Spider-Man, man. Like, I want to swing through New York City and web people up. And the game lets you feel that way, and it attaches itself to all of its ancillary characters too, right? Miles Morales, Aunt May, Mary Jane, they all pop up in this game. And all of their storylines just ultimately build something that's emotionally gripping. You were really invested in everything in this game, to the point that when things happen at the end, at least I, cried like a baby. And I love that, man. It just means that story really connected with me in a way that I haven't seen before. And the use of just Spider-Man stuff in the game. He has so many suits, all different variations of his suit that we've seen in the comics are mostly pretty much available in this game. Variations of the suit that we've seen in the movies available in this game. And the way in which you acquire them and stuff, really cool. All of his Spidey gadgets are awesome. The different types of webbing, different gadgets that he has. Just all of these Spider-Man oriented things that you can build and add, and as you're upgrading your player, they're just all really cool. Tons of nice little, Easter eggs throughout the whole game that constantly made me go, oh, that. And even though ultimately the story is its own, and there are things that are changed, it works really, really well, and it feels like a Spider-Man story, which is the most important. I'm cool with variations, man. The movies, all they do are take comic book things that I'm familiar with, twist them a little bit, and deliver a new story. And that's what Spider-Man the PS4 video game does. It takes stuff I know, twists it a little bit so that it can be new, and delivers a story that feels accurate but is completely different. And nowhere else is that seen than the post-credit scene. Yes, this is a Marvel game, folks. Of course there are post-credit scenes. And there's an animated credits that's awesome. I sat there, I was just like, yeah, I have no problem waiting to the end of this set of credits, because, oh man, like, it was so fun. Like, it was really good to watch. And then you get a post-credit scene there that's fun and just made me go, downloadable content right now. Or give me another game right now, because I want to play this. I want this at my disposal while I'm playing the game. But then you get like the regular credits, and you can actually skip them. Thank you, Insomniac, for giving the skip button there to get to the post credit. And the post credit is probably the biggest variation and deviation from the Spider-Man stories that we're familiar with. The thing that we see, I'm pretty sure it is exactly what we think it is. And it's an odd route to go, but it works. I think it works really well in this story. And I think it sets up possibility of something that could be really cool in a sequel game. And at this point, I wholeheartedly trust them to take the idea that they throw right at the end there and make you go, huh? Was that what I think that was? I believe that Insomniac could make that version of this story work in a way that's awesome. So yeah, man, everything about this game is just really, really good. From the amount of different Spider-Man characters we get to see, to the way they're all used, to, the actual gameplay, the fighting, and the, swinging through the city, to the cinematic story, and to where everything goes. It is just a perfectly crafted Spider-Man game. I don't think you could ever find anything that's been done any better than this in the Spider-Man world. The only way you're ever going to beat this Spider-Man game is if Insomniac, Marvel, and Sony get together, make a sequel, and that tops it. It's spectacular. If you're not a video game person, do yourself a favor. Go on YouTube, find the cinematic version of the game, and watch it, because it's worth the watch. The story is really, really good. If you are a video game person, get on this, man. This game is just so much fun. Yeah, like I said, some of the boss battles weaker than I would prefer, but I'm used to fighting things in Bloodborne that are like days on end to beat sometimes. But regardless, it is so much fun to play. And if you are a video game and a Spider-Man fan, this is the perfect combination of anything you could do with Spider-Man. And like the movements, the way he moves, that even feels more accurate than the Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland. And that, I said, was some of the most accurate movements I'd ever seen in Spider-Man. The video game does it even better, and there are some comic book surprises. One comic book surprise in particular that I was like, I've never in my life seen that in a video game, especially in a video game that looks like this, and it was amazing. It's one of my favorite ways to play with Spider-Man. I won't spoil it, but when you find it, I hope you know what I'm talking about, because it was like, I literally was like, wow, I didn't think you'd do that, and it was so cool. So there you go, man. That's all that C-Man has to say about Spider-Man, the PS4 video game. It is amazing. It is a must-have, must-play, must-watch, must-something, man. Whatever your must is, attach it yourself to it and check this game out in some way, shape, or form. So that's it, man. I am exhausted. Spent everything I could say without spoiling anything. Now it's your turn, man. What did you think? If you've played the game, did you like how is this the best video game movement for Spider-Man? The swinging, the action, and the fighting. How do you feel about all of that? Was it not the best? Was the cinematic experience as good for you as it was for me? Were you able to really invest in the story that we're playing? Tell me all the things that you liked or disliked if you've played it. If you haven't, I hope the C-Man has enticed you, man, because it's so worth it. Check it out. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me if you're going to check it out. If you just don't care, hit those comments. Let me know what you're thinking. As always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe and little bell so you get alerts every time that the C-Man makes a new video. The C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down Spider-Man PS4 video game version of a live reaction. It's in the books. First time ever. I am the C-Man. I'm signing or swinging off. Peace!
Hey, 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 I'm the C-Man and I'm running at you. Hey, 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 look at this. I got a video, and a subscribe button. Hey, hey, hey.